Right, well, today is the best day in the last 2 years for me.
What does that mean?
Succession's back.
Oh, I was disappointed this morning when you reminded me that it doesn't come on all together.
Oh. Well, that was only meant to be a little bit of intro, so hello and welcome to It's in the Genes podcast, a podcast by the Digital Gene. My name is Declan,
And I'm Sharon.
and we are a mum and son duo and directors from the Digital Gene. Today we'll be discussing why the tech billionaires want to leave humanity behind, Facebook's really bad week a couple of years ago, how face-to-face GP visits are still near lockdown levels. Mum wants to talk about some e-commerce tips, and it's my turn for the business highlight again, and I have picked a social media platform called Mastodon.
And
And we'll also, I'm guessing, talk about what we've been up to, what we're doing, and I'm guessing Mum has launched on her Instagram today something about World Menopause Day or Menopause Awareness Day. So I'm
I wasn't
guessing
sure whether the show notes had updated with that.
they haven't, but I just know you so well.
You just knew.
Um, I knew you'd want to talk about that. So we've got plenty to talk about, and in this new series, I want to keep everything under an hour. So where do we start? I mean, I suppose the last time we recorded, we were about to just have a little family holiday off to Sands End, so that's
Hadn't we
happened.
been? Hadn't we been when we
No,
recorded?
we recorded the day before.
We were just. Oh gosh, that feels like ages ago.
Well, we are recording this late. Normally we record the week before the episode comes out, but because of different things, we're recording on Monday the 18th, which hopefully means the episode will be out in the next couple of days. So, yeah, it's been more than 2 weeks since we've been there, but we had a nice time, didn't we?
We had a lovely time.
Yeah.
I'm going again, hopefully.
Oh, yeah?
Aham. Yes, I hope so.
You seem very distracted, Mum. Do you want to get what you're distracted about out? Because it's just annoying me. You're obviously getting lots of Instagram messages that you just can't not go to
It's
for an
World
hour.
Menopause Day. It's a big day in my calendar deck.
Well, let's get this out the way and just tell us all about what you've launched today in a hashtag.
Well, what I've launched, I've wrote about it. My menopause journey is well documented. Obviously, you guys as my family support team, and on my blog, Best Before End Date. One of the reasons why I started the blog back in 2017 was that I wanted to document my midlife, but mainly my menopause, because I thought it was important. Because at the point at which I was aware that the symptoms I was having and what I was experiencing were my menopause, I didn't really know much about it until then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's been people say roller coasters for everything, but it's been a massive roller coaster, because I even had a brain scan because I thought literally I was something wrong with my brain. I think that was back in 2018, wasn't it now?
It's
Um,
because the symptoms, and I mean, we've all been on a journey with you in a way. The symptoms are sometimes can be similar to some form of neurological or mental health condition. So,
well, there's just a doctor who posts a world-renowned. I don't know what type of doctor she is. Let me just find her. But she is actually talking more and more about now the research and the science behind the menopausal brain. The changes are obvious. It's not just a made up thing. Do you know what I mean? There are actually significant changes that happen in the brain functions throughout menopause. And more is actually going into it, which is great. but the voices about menopause and the education around menopause are still very insignificant, even though we've made significant strides about it. And I feel like us women have driven that because we
Mhm.
want answers to things. We're probably the very first generation that has had to, men at my age in the 50s or 40s, even when perimenopause generally starts, although much younger for some women, but generally it starts in the 40s. And then the height of the menopause comes in your early 50s. And I've since found out now that symptoms can go on for the rest of your life, although they're generally quite dampened down. Um, but yeah, men usually are regarded as at their prime career wise at this stage in their lives, and women, because they are navigating what's happening to them with the menopause and the massive hormonal changes that are going on in the body, are really fighting that battle as well. Not every woman's always going to go through it, just as every woman scientifically should have periods. So every woman scientifically and biologically should go through the menopause in one way or another. Some will hardly know it's happened to them. Some maybe, like, I guess there's even women worse than me, but for me, mine's been pretty horrendous. You've got to remember, before the end of last year, I thought I'd plateaued and I felt great. And I thought, oh, is this it? Have I come out the other side now? And then boom, it was back for me with a vengeance. And I didn't know that your HRT could stop working. So I had to navigate all of that with my GP. But the changes that I'd seen at my doctor's practice since then were significant as well. From the last time that I'd needed to speak to somebody about it, there was, I wouldn't say they were throwing everything at me, but when I'd had to ask a couple of years ago for a hormone test and was told that, oh, they're not reliable, they're not really available. Now it was, oh, let's do your hormone test. Let's see how they're going. And I actually found out about 2 months ago that my estrogen levels had, as you know, had dropped down below the ground. So I'm on a different cocktail of HRT, and I'm taking some more vitamin supplements, and I'm now feeling able to do some exercise, which I know all of the combination of all those things is making a massive difference. Anyway, this podcast isn't about the menopause. It's just the fact that I want to champion it. I want to, in some small way, I want my voice to be used to enable other women younger than me who are going to be going through the same thing to know that there's all, it's not one size fits all for a menopause journey.
Mm.
And we become, for me, it's like you become so powerful with it because you're able to manage it and get through it, and it also almost feels like a rite of passage. Those stages in your life where you feel as if different things are a rite of passage, and this is what it feels like for me as a woman, and I guess it probably feels like lots of the same for lots of other women. And that visibility, I feel we should embrace that and make that invisibility, that cloak that comes over us when we're going through the menopause, that we feel, especially in the workplace, that we're no longer visible and we're no longer relevant. I want to try and change that and flip it. And so I haven't launched a hashtag because nobody owns a hashtag. It's just a selection of
Well, that's what I was going to say. How do
a
you want
group of
people to get
words.
involved? Because
I just want them to use the hashtag not past my expiry date. And whenever I see them on Instagram and Twitter, I'm going to share them. And so we can collectively be a voice of positiveness for the positive side of coming through the menopause.
perfect. So now that's out your system. Get off
It's
your
out my
phone.
system now.
Like
Thank
get
you.
get off your phone because the replies will be
I'm off
there
my
in
phone. I've switched it
in
off. Thank
45
you.
minutes. But no,
Thank
going
you.
back, we had a nice time away. I saw some dolphins, which I'm still telling people all about on the
Oh,
walk to
you were
Whitby.
so happy about that,
Like
weren't you, as we walked along the coast?
my old zoology kind of hat came on then, and I was, I just heard it first. They were that close. I
You
heard
must
it.
have great ears,
I
Declan. I
don't know.
thought
It's
my
just a
hearing was
really
good.
it's a really distinct noise when like a marine mammal comes up for air, and I just heard it. I looked and I saw it go back down. But then by the time we got our phones out and footage, they were a lot further away. But that was cool. We also got snuggy on the evenings and watched Netflix's Midnight Mass, which I don't feel like a lot of people are watching. And I know we've mentioned before, but it was a slow burner of a season. But
Yeah, you need to watch about 3 or 4 episodes, don't you, to...
but I would say the payoff is definitely there.
Yeah,
Um,
it's good.
we
It's good when
also,
you
what
get
else
that
have we
far.
been up to? I wrote on the show notes that I was fed up with LinkedIn, but I don't know why I wrote that. I mean, I always go through peaks and troughs with LinkedIn. Um, I think I had a one-to-one with somebody, and I was just chatting to them and saying how it exhausts me sometimes. That's what I was saying. I've started to actively mute people. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I'm used to doing it on other social media platforms because sometimes you think it's not worth the hassle if I unfollow them, but their content right now, if I'm in a certain mind frame, I don't want to see.
Mm,
If I feel like, business, it's no secret that business has its ups and downs. And if the one week feels like we're all going down the no, what's the bit going up the roller coaster? I would guess because that's the hard bit, isn't it?
mm,
Um, and if I see people just blabbing on about how great the lives are on LinkedIn, but I never thought LinkedIn would be a social media platform where I would have to do that.
mm.
But it
Didn't
has.
we speak a bit about this last time, though,
I
where,
mean,
or
we
have I had
always
another
do, but
conversation?
we've had it before. But I've actually actively started muting people now. Um,
It's
so
almost like on LinkedIn for me, unless you're bigging up your business and how great it is and what a fabulous time you're having, it's either that or you've got to speak about the deep darkness of a mental health struggle.
mhm,
And it seems to me like those are the two types of posts that get engagement. Anything else where it is literally meant to be, I'm not saying it's meant to be a sales platform because obviously it's not, but if you're trying to get across something about your business, nobody seems interested,
mhm,
which is bizarre because that's what we're all there for.
yeah,
We've all become these content creators, haven't we, where we have to create content that's not really about our business, but it is.
yeah,
You've got to be so much more than like, oh, can we help you by building you some software that will really improve your business processes behind the scenes? Like, nobody's interested. You got to think about a really interesting, engaging, informative, entertaining way to say it, don't you?
mhm, yeah.
Um, so, so you give up and you end up talking about doing a poll. What's the best thing for breakfast?
Oh, there
Sausage
was a
roll
poll
or
yesterday that
bacon roll, something like that.
absolutely infuriated me. Like it was why do and trigger warning because this is going to get a bit dark quite quickly, but it won't stay like it for long. It was why do men commit suicide? And then there was four obvious things like can't talk, access to um, help, blah blah blah, and then like the bottom one was all of the above, and it was very clearly all of the above. And
Hmm.
I just thought it was so twee and bad taste,
You
personally.
sort of think, where do you put the, like, I've shared my menopause blog post on my LinkedIn today, and once over I would have been probably a bit frightened as to the repercussions about that.
Hmm.
Um,
You work for
but
yourself, though, Mum. It's up to you. I guess it would be
yeah, but I
different
also,
if you were within an organisation because they might not want you. If the if they're a good organisation, they would want you sharing things like
well,
that.
that's really important because that's one of the things that I talk about, how it's got to be a topic of discussion in the workplace.
Mm,
Anybody who employs females who are going to go through the menopause, like, you've got to have a safe place for them that they feel safe, obviously.
trans men go through the menopause as well.
Do they?
Well, if they've still got certain, well, some trans men.
Parts.
So imagine that healthcare. Imagine a trans
Oh,
man negotiating that kind of
I can't begin to
access to
think.
healthcare.
I can't begin to think what that's like because it's been. Yeah, I've been lucky that I've come across some really supportive people
Mm,
in the workplace, but some not as well.
yeah.
But yeah, like you say, I work for myself, so it's you guys that are there to support me now.
Mm,
Gary's learning more about the menopause.
yeah. Anything else? Obviously, tonight I'll be watching Succession, and then I'll be coming. Um, on our work comms in the morning, and the first thing I'll tell you is to fuck off, I think. Just to celebrate.
Just because you can,
Yeah,
just
just
to
to
celebrate
celebrate,
season 3 of Succession.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been
Uh,
watching. I don't know how many times I've watched the trailers.
oh, I'm so excited. It's got
Um,
amazing reviews as well. It's like the first 2 seasons and how good they were, but just it somehow is even better. Um,
and I was saying to your dad, I said, I can't believe you've never watched it. He said, oh, it's yours and Declan's thing, isn't it? I said, yeah,
um,
because having a
everyone I
family
come across
business.
no, but everyone I come across, I'm like, "You need to watch it because it's fastly becoming like a TV classic,
It
similar
is
to
so
like
good.
Sopranos, Breaking Bad, West Wing, like we're talking that kind of
I
level of
just can't wait to
quality."
see what levels they sink to in this season.
Yeah, but it's so good.
Yeah,
Anyway, shall we move on to some other things?
we should. Yes.
Okay. So, I wanted to talk about Facebook's really bad week. Not necessarily the outage, because that's old news now. But whilst this outage was happening, which, if you're a cynic, they might have used the outage to take the thingy away from the whistleblower testifying. Did you see this?
No.
So last week, the week before, obviously since we last recorded, um, she a whistleblower. Let me find the. She testified about how they put profits above everything. They're not bothered about the breakdown of civil society. They're not bothered about people's health. They're not bothered about everything. Everything is just profit, profit, profit. How can we
Mm-hmm.
be? How can we get people more addicted to these platforms? She just said she's called Miss Horgan. There was conflicts of interest between what was good for the public and what was good for Facebook. Facebook over and over again chose to optimize for its own interests, like making more money. Facebook strongly denied the claim, saying it spent significant sums of money on safety. To say we turn a blind eye to feedback ignores these investments, including the 40,000 people working on safety and security at Facebook, and our investment of 13 billion since 2016. We know all this. It doesn't really shock me. Um, but I think it's time that Facebook is broken up a bit.
Well, my love-hate relationship with the whole of social media.
Mm,
Considering we started out as a business that was offering social media services, when we saw the opportunity and the window to pivot,
mm,
boy, did we pivot quick, didn't we?
yeah.
Um, I think lots of people have a massive love-hate relationship with it. Um, Getting back to my blog again, best before end it. I actually get no traffic from Instagram. Get lots of traffic from Facebook, whether I post on there or not. It just comes naturally.
Well,
But I
it's
get
because
no,
it's a search engine, isn't it?
yeah.
Really, but
But I
that's
get
what's
no
become bad. But
traffic.
that's what's become bad as well because we all then rely on Facebook. So what I'm saying is, I think Facebook can't own Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, all that, and then anything that get like if a platform is developed third party and they think it's going to be a thing, they buy it. They just have this huge monopoly over
Yeah, well, somebody was
everything.
talking about Google as well because you know you're like me. In fact, you and your brother have shown me how to block as much stuff as I don't want to see, ads and things. Um, but lots of people still talk about Go, the search engine, and that's been out for a long time. And I just, it doesn't track your movements, what you're doing, like
Mm,
Google does. And I can't see, I can't even remember how long it's been a thing. Back when I had my e-commerce business, I remember it was a thing then, and it's obviously never grown, which is such a shame. I just think they have no competition. Just getting back to Instagram, obviously being a Facebook product. Have you probably, I don't know, you do Instagram stories. I know you don't do as many as me, but have you seen those bots, those fake accounts that are in your Instagram stories at the minute? Watch my pussy. Do
what?
you have them? Do you have
No.
them? Right, so quite a few people have been talking about it. In your Instagram stories, usually at the very bottom of
Oh, mum,
who's.
you don't. Sorry, you don't have go off on tangents on this podcast.
No, but I'm talking
Like,
about. I am talking about how I hate the grip that all these big platforms have on us. Right, I will get to this. Okay, bear with me. So of
God.
late, there has been lots of people who I chat to have been saying driving them mad, and I just block them, delete them. But there's whatever there are, bots, fake accounts, who knows what they are? I don't know. But they're porn basically. Watch my pussy, okay? And there's like loads of them. You block one, the next one on your next story, there's another one. And so finally, last night, I decided to report one. So when you go through the report thing, reporting is not much that I've ever done, but when you go through, it asks you if it's to do with sexual content that shouldn't be there.
Hmm.
So yes, I said that's what it was. Um, gets the update this morning. It's not breaking any community guidelines.
Well, they have become like they're the biggest censor in the world now. They choose what's right and what's wrong in a way.
But you
And
know
I
what
know
bothers
they
me?
try to be quite liberal and hands off, unless it's maybe
But if I want
explicit.
porn,
No, I know,
Declan,
but if it's explicitly showing an act of violence or an act of whatever, then they will take it down.
but if I want
But
porn, I'll go and get it.
this is not really what I was talking about, though,
No, but
Mum. I think
I
you've
know,
really
but
missed
you're
the
talking
point
about
here.
the hold that they have on society. What I'm trying to say is, what I'm trying to bring that back down to, whether it's relevant or not, it's relevant to me. Is like I'm big enough and old enough and ugly enough not to care about those things. I just wanted to see what happened when I reported one. Was a bit of a just to see what they would do. I sort of knew what the outcome was going to be, and what bothers me so much about it is that this porn is seeping into the everyday lives of children who are on these platforms.
Right, okay. That's not what I meant, though. I
I feel like
get
one of
what you mean.
those
You're like
antagonists who are saying, "I will
like,
talk about it
no, you're
regardless."
not. Like, you're in that's not what we're
I'm
talking.
annoying you.
It's
It
like,
doesn't take much to annoy
well,
you,
it's
does
just
it?
saying
But
that
what you're
it's
saying about is how much they rule the roost,
but it's not a
basically.
I was yeah, but it wasn't on about I wasn't on about what kind of content we oh.
I know you weren't, but
I wish you'd
what I'm
read
trying
the
to.
articles
I
sometimes,
did read the
no.
article. I read every article that you put in the show notes, Declan. But what I'm trying to say is it's all about the hold that these platforms have on us all. And you can bring it back to that woman who's saying what she said.
Basically, she just said if Facebook changed their algorithm to be safer, they'll make less money.
Yeah, so they're not safe places. They're not safe places. That's what I'm trying to
But I
say.
don't get why they don't like they make so much money. Just
Yeah,
make a
but they
little.
just want to make more.
I know, but I don't get that. I
Well,
never
it must be.
understand it because the long term gain is like if social media continues the way it should, like how we saw the Capitol riots in America. Like if that had been more serious, I mean, it was horrendously serious. Like, but if that had resulted in senators being killed and it gone
Oh, then it'd been
a
different.
whole lot worse. That's
Yeah.
just kind of like them starting to take like they're starting to break up civil society, and
They
then there won't be any profits to had if they don't have a society like they used to have when they first started. Did you get me? It's like climate change. It's like no point making loads of money from oil because then if you ruin the planet in 100 years, there'll be no like you won't have the people to
Well, those
make money
people who
from
are here
anymore.
won't be bothered in 100 years because they're probably, unless you're really rich, and obviously you're one of those ones who freezes yourself.
Oh God,
Goes
right.
off on it. And what I'm trying to say, Declan,
Honestly,
is these platforms are not safe places. We talk, don't we, about
stop
women?
banging.
We talk, don't we, about women walking out alone in places that aren't safe. The internet is the same thing
Hmm.
for our kids.
It's
I'm so
polarizing.
glad you're over
It's
that stage of being
polarizing.
online.
It's polarizing as well. Like the societies, as we know. Like I mean, look, another MP was killed last week, and I don't necessarily think you can blame social media, but just all this tension that's going around the world and how things are becoming more. You can read your own echo chambers in Facebook. You can get lost, and you can like that incel of that guy who killed that family in Plymouth. The other, like, it's
Mm.
all just seems to be all this violence has always happened. It's just they're not
Has
helping.
the same level of violence always happened, but because of social media, we know about it all? Or is
Well, it depends
violence
how far
growing,
back you
violence
go in
levels growing?
depends how far back you go in history, I guess, because society used to be a lot more violent than what it is now. I mean, I went to
Oh,
I went to see The Last Duel yesterday, which was about the last duel that happened in the French courts. And I
mm.
mean, God, that's how they decided if somebody had committed a crime. Put
Oh, I
put
mean,
the hands in God, and whoever won was what was the truth. It's just
that's
like,
the thing. It was brutal, wasn't it? Life. When
mm,
you think about the kings and queens back in the medieval times and earlier, they were just struggling to keep alive and keep their seat of power every single day because there was always somebody behind them, wasn't there,
mm,
waiting to topple them.
yeah,
Life must have been so difficult, even if you were at the top of the pile back in those days.
yeah, I agree.
So yeah, who knows? But yeah, the internet is not a safe place.
Okay. Right, let's move on. Sticking with billionaires, unfortunately, and there's a really good, quite a long read article on the New Statesman's website that
Oh, I
um,
know. I
was
started to read it,
released.
and I got so
You
far, and I
didn't
was like,
read it all?
I didn't
No,
read it all because that was a
no.
long one.
The spirit of the age, why the tech billionaires want to leave humanity behind. So Jeff Bezos and his contemporaries are using their fortunes to achieve godlike ambitions for the future. So we've touched on this before about the tech billionaires using their money to go off to space, um, which I guess they see themselves as. There was a bit in the article and it was said, let me find it. So the question arises from all of this. Should a modern society use its powers against those whom we expect to bring about the greatest historical transformations? So maybe they would argue that they are forwarding humanity on. Yeah. So us as a
Forwarding humanity on.
like we're the
They're making the advances for
the
us.
they're progressing
Yeah,
humanity.
technological
Yeah.
advances. Yeah, yeah.
So taking the little bits going off to space could maybe in years mean we can go colonize other planets. I mean, I couldn't think of anything worse, but
You won't be going then.
why would you want to live on Mars? I just think that's so weird. Anyway, like, so
Well, a
should
bit
we
like how some
should
people
we
want to go and live in Australia, I guess. I don't know.
what are you
I don't
on
know.
today?
I
How the
don't know.
hell is people going to
There'll
live
always
in
be people who
Australia
want.
to go live on Mars?
They will
What
always
on
be.
earth is going on today?
There will
Oh,
always be people who want to live somewhere else, whether that's Australia, whether that's Mars, whether that's down the road. There are always people who want to be somewhere else. And these tech giants, it's just like a massive fuck you to everybody else, isn't it? A big one-upmanship.
so
Like,
you believe then should we stop them in the tracks by taxing them more and solving what Earth's problems, or do we hands off and leave them with the millions of dollars that they've accrued to try and take humanity to the next level?
do you
What do
think
you
they're
think?
really going to take humanity to the next level, or is it just a big one-upmanship for them?
Well, it is probably like a bit of a it's an ego thing, isn't it? I
Like a
think.
cockfight.
Yeah, like whose is bigger? I
Who's
know
got
you
the
meant
biggest one?
chickens, but
I
I mean,
didn't. I meant cocks.
oh, did you? Right.
Yeah, who's
Okay.
got the biggest? I mean, that
Yeah.
term, a cockfight, but who's got the biggest one, basically?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I do get that, but wouldn't we have said that about potentially anybody that has moved
Columbus, do
humanity
you
on?
mean? Would we have said that about Christopher Columbus?
I mean, he was a imperialist, so
Well,
I don't even want to get into that.
they were all
Um,
imperialists back then. Pick one that wasn't, Declan.
I
But
know.
I'm
No, I know.
saying,
That's what I mean.
obviously he discovered, although some
I
people would
don't
probably
mean
say he
that. I mean
didn't.
like somebody who invented the internet, somebody who invented the light bulb, somebody who invented electricity, not somebody who went to South America.
Well, I was
Um,
using the analogy of like discovering new worlds, new lands.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know, like I don't really know. It's like,
See, those people,
should we stop them? Should we not? Should we tax them more and solve
how
Earth's
are we going to stop
problems?
them?
Well, take the wealth off them through the
They're
tax
more
system.
powerful than the governments, aren't they?
Well, you could argue, yeah.
How are we
Take the
going to stop them?
take wealth off them, but they're that wealthy, even taxing them at a higher rate would probably not stop them. You know, if they've got billions and billions, taking another few billions off
Have
them,
any
they're
of them
still
got
gonna be a
trillions?
billionaire. Uh, there's some companies now worth trillions, but I don't think that translates into the
One singular
shareholders
person,
having
right?
trillions. But it's like through the pandemic, billionaires got richer.
Mm.
There's a point, isn't there, where you're untouchable. You're that
Yeah,
powerful and rich, no matter what's
you'll
happening in the
always
world,
swerve.
you will always be on the up.
You'll
Because
always swerve and
yeah.
miss the, you know, miss the thing that's coming headlong for everybody else.
I personally, my view is it's just a bit bad taste. It just looks like we've all like damaged the earth, and I would just prefer them to put the money in to. And Bill Gates does a lot for climate change or different things, but I'd just prefer them all to just look a bit more inwardly first before we do that.
But is that because they those stories make the headlines? We're not aware of what else they're actually doing for the planet.
Maybe I don't know. It's a
I don't
difficult
think
one, isn't
any of
it?
us. I don't think any. Do you know what? I feel as if I don't think any of us actually get the truth about anything anymore.
Right. Well,
I
there's a really good
don't.
website for that called Full Fact.
Oh, is there?
Full Fact. So if you go on it, this is a good. It's not my organisation I'm championing on my episode, but it's like the big buzzwords where there's a lot of they don't fact check everything, but if there's been
Something
uh,
going on.
we have been asked lots, so on the website now, we have been asked lots of questions on WhatsApp regarding the use of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine in pregnancy. So it just cuts through all the BS. Um,
Right.
so, and it'll tell you it doesn't have absolutely no effect on pregnancy. It does, whatever. But
Oh,
that's a
that's
good,
good.
uh,
Brexit,
yeah,
coronavirus, vaccines.
yeah. All
Oh,
that kind of stuff
interesting.
where there's so much shit just flung everywhere
Oh,
and
I do
different
like having a chat with you from time to
opinions.
time, Declan. You do throw some interesting stuff up.
Right, let's move on. So we're going to talk
Okay.
about face-to-face GP visits, but God knows what you're going to spin this off into. Could be anything. Could be like bloody Catherine the Great in Russia or something with the spin-offs you're coming up with today. Um,
I feel like all of my everything that I've dug into has been relevant.
okay. So the rate of face-to-face GP consultations in England have changed little since the winter lockdown. Just 58% of patients were seen face-to-face in August, the first full month following the ending of all restrictions. That compares with 54% in January and over 80% before the pandemic. So I didn't realise how many were remote kind of before. I never didn't think
Me
it was
either.
ever an option, to
I
be
didn't think
honest.
it was a thing.
Um,
I always thought they. Sometimes when I thought, oh, I could have just rang them and had a chat with them instead of going into the surgery for that. You wished sort of that sometimes, but I never
yeah.
knew it was a thing beforehand.
I just think it's a matter of choice, and I think we need to allow people to choose.
I agree.
Um, I guess the world will probably move towards more remote, especially as older generations are no longer with us. Um, you know, I think of all the times I had tonsillitis as a teenager, and yeah, the doctor would probably want to check it, but if you've got a good relationship with the doctor, I'll just be like, I can guarantee you that I've got the exact same symptoms that I had.
Hmm.
And if the doctor's good and they use digital properly, maybe they could get you to take a picture of the back of your throat. I
Oh,
don't
that's
know.
the thing.
But
That's the thing. They really, if this is going to be a thing, which I agree, I think there is a place for having a consultation over the phone, over Zoom, over text, over email, whatever. I feel like there really is a place for that, but they've got to up the game on it
yeah.
for it to work properly.
Mm,
I would actually, like I said to you, there's many a time where I think I actually don't need to see the doctor. I just need a quick chat with them about something.
Yeah.
And that surely saves them time, doesn't it? But interestingly, that this is on the show notes because, and I'm bringing it back to menopause. Obviously, I've had a HRT update, changed my cocktail of HRT, and I needed another blood test 6 weeks in after that, just to check out my hormone levels. And there was one other thing that my GP wanted me to start trying once she knew how my levels had settled down after 6 weeks. 9 weeks in, I've only just got my appointment because I've been trying to get through probably anywhere between 8 and 10 times. I've rang now at different times of a day to try and get to make an appointment, and
God.
just don't pick up. I've tried early in the morning. I've tried mid-afternoon when they say, it's the less busy time. I've tried just before 6 of an evening when I think nobody will be about. I must have tried 8 to 10 times over the last 2 to 3 weeks to actually book in, not for an appointment, actually, to book in for my new blood test. In the end, out of desperation on Friday, I went on to, the e-consult form,
Mm.
which I didn't need to, but I sort of blasted through and made up answers to all the questions and said, I need an appointment for my hormonal blood test, please. I have tried 8 to 10 times with no success of getting through to your reception over the last 2 weeks. Please just book me in. And then I get to reply early this morning, saying they've booked me in for 4 p.m. on Wednesday. Like, there should be a service like that where I don't need to sit on the phone trying to get through to you. I'll happily, stop blocking up your phone lines.
Mm.
I just think there should be a service, shouldn't there? I think they need to up the game if that's the way
I
forward.
always remember, like there's the Leeds Sexual Health Clinic. They said before that they have like thousands of phone calls a day and only like one or two people to answer them.
It's not doable, is it?
No, no,
It's
and you
not
almost look
doable.
to the American private system, which brings up a whole load more complications. But they like ring their own doctor, don't they?
Mm.
Like, I need to just speak to my doctor, and they have that relationship with them because I think you lose that as well. Like, I always laugh when I log into the back end system of our doctors because it says, "Oh, my doctor is whoever," and I'm like, I've not seen my doctor in years.
Mm.
You obviously get assigned somebody, but you just get to see whoever you get to see, don't you? And I just think
Well,
it's
I'm
mad.
quite specific because obviously the last few times I've been going about something specific. So I've asked for my doctor, but yeah, I think with AI now, there must be scope for them, you know, making that a lot cleverer and a much better use of everybody's time.
I wonder if we try work with the NHS digital arm, mum, and I mean they
Can't
do have a
believe that
full
somebody's not
they do
doing
have
that
a lead they
already.
do have a full NHS digital department about all this. Like,
You would think, you would hope so, wouldn't you?
yeah. But
So
yeah, I
yeah,
mean
watch this space, see what happens with GP practices, eh?
it's also a massive problem how GP numbers are falling, but that's like just to comment on that quickly. They all retire quite early because it's a stressful job and they can retire early. So I think the average age for a retiring doctor is like really young in the 50s, which is
So are
unsustainable as well. Because
people not training to be GPs
no,
anymore?
no,
Why?
they're not filling the gap in anything, mum.
Well, we won't go there with the lorry drivers, will we?
No, there's all sorts of stuff. Just quickly before your last topic, before I then move on to my business highlight. Uh, you haven't seen Bond, have you? That's slacking,
I planned to go this evening,
right?
but your dad's been called to work, so
Oh well, you'll have to do Meerkat movies tomorrow. Um, Also, there's thingy, isn't there as well? June this weekend, which I am literally
Oh, I bet
been
you're really excited to
waiting for
see
this
that.
for about 2 years. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's the new Lord of the Rings, it's the new this, it's the new
Oh,
that."
what's the sci-fi thing I've been watching on Apple? Can't even remember what it's called now, but I'm enjoying it.
Foundation.
Foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm watched the latest episode over the weekend. Um, yeah, I remember when I messaged you and said that I was watching that, and you said, "Oh, that's a bit heavy." Oh, it's just my type of thing.
Hard sci-fi. It's not been adapted for I don't think ever because it's, like, really dense and really hard to adapt.
It's like
Um,
it's like humanity, but like in a I'm exaggerating here, but it's like humanity in like a million years' time. Probably not a
mm.
million, but like it's like
No, it is a
humanity
long time away.
in a
No, it is.
thousand
Yeah.
years' time,
No,
say,
it's I
or
think it's more,
is it
but yeah.
more?
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. There are tiny little snippets of where they talk about what humanity, us, what we were like. They don't mention it very much, but there's a few times you think, oh, that's talking about when it was like now. Um, but it's like so far forward, it almost seems backwards in some ways.
Mm,
Like if you didn't know the concept of what the story was about, you would actually think it was before us, but actually it's really far in front of us. Um, and I did read a couple of those books in my late teens or attempt. I don't think I ever read them fully through. But
Isaac Asimov.
yeah, but I really enjoying it. It's
Mm,
really deep and it's hard to yeah, and the rulers of this kingdom, they're they're like clones of each other. There's
mm,
3 of them. There's 3 of them, and there's a lot of religious sort of, as there in all of these things, aren't there? There's like religious undertones, like there's 3 of them. So I was thinking, oh, like, you know, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost type of thing. It's
yeah.
reminiscent of that. One's a baby, and they just think, oh, there's loads of like things in there where religion's sort of woven into it. And obviously, there is a religion, their own different religions across the many planets and the universe. It's very deep, but it's dead interesting. Dead interesting. I love it.
Amazing.
Mm.
What was gonna say there then? Uh,
You lost your
now
train of
we
thought there.
now we've gone done, like, a little couple of recommendations again. E-commerce, mum, over to you.
Yeah, e-commerce. Obviously, I've been able to speak a little about this. I've had a successful e-commerce business and lost a successful e-commerce business. Um, Lots of time, lots of opportunities to talk about that in the future. But I often find that people set up e-commerce businesses, and many people have no clue how to grow them. And it's very much trial and error, which is great when it's an exciting new business. But sometimes you will really get left behind unless you educate yourself quite quickly as to all the different things that you need to do for an e-commerce business to grow.
Mhm.
I think I might have even wrote on the Digital Gene blog a while ago about some tips for growing an e-commerce business. But the
I
big
think
thing,
you said on our meeting this morning that if you've got a website, sometimes if you're a B2B business, you don't really understand SEO, PPC. Um,
mm,
but with if you've got an e-com business, you need to know, you need to
you've got to
at least
learn.
you have to have some understanding. Yes, even if you outsource it, but you have to
Yeah.
know what's good, what's bad, at
Exactly, and
least.
unless you're a startup with some budget who can afford to outsource some of this work straight away, as a business owner, an e-commerce store owner, you've got to learn pretty quickly. You've got to educate. You've got to upskill yourself, even if. So one of those things that when I had my business is I upskilled myself quite dramatically because even though I knew that I wasn't potentially going to do all of that forever, which I didn't, I then outsourced it to agencies and had some staff members that did things. Although I knew that was going to happen, I wanted to know what everybody was doing. I wanted to have an understanding of it because for things like, your return on investment, your profit margins, all of that type of thing, you've got to have an understanding of how everything works. And to begin with, sometimes you will have to be a jack of all trades and do a little bit of each thing. But one of the things that people generally just don't know is once their store is launched online, they actually don't have any clue what to do with it, how to optimize it. An e-commerce store online is one of the most fast moving things ever. It cannot stand still because there's that constant stream of new products coming online. It's like how I try to give an analogy. When you get a delivery in a physical store and you prep, you check it in, you make sure it's all correct, and you prep it all and get it ready for the shop floor. There is exactly the same type of process for an online store. And I think a lot of people forget that, how to optimize their store ongoing. Um, and so, what I've decided to do is to start sharing a few things, a few tips and tricks that people can do who've got e commerce stores, actually, regardless of what stage they're at, but especially if they're just starting out, or probably they're just seeing that glimmer of, oh, this might work, it's quite successful. People are buying those things. I'm getting some visibility of the types of things that you need to do to optimize your store to make the search engines, particularly Google, love it. I'm going to start sharing some of those tips and tricks on our Instagram stories, because I just think they're really useful. Nobody told me about any of that, and from what I can see, there's not a lot of education. Education is key for everything, isn't it? And I know you can go to Google for anything and type it in, but you need to speak sometimes to somebody who's walked the walk,
Yeah.
who understands it. And that's like for us, building e-commerce platforms. I know that I can always give advice. We don't actually do it for clients. With the builders, the developers. We put those foundation stones in place, but I can signpost people to what they need to do or what they need to get or how to upskill or who they need to speak to. Um, so yeah, just some of the best practices for optimizing your e-commerce store. That's what I'm going to do, because I would have found them really useful, and I don't see much of it happening, especially in our locality where we live. I hardly see anybody talking about e-commerce because we come from a massive manufacturing landscape, don't we?
Yeah.
And everybody is always seeming to think like, how can we replace all this manufacturing that we had with some more manufacturing, which
Mm.
is great. But what about those lifeblood businesses, e-commerce? I just think there is a lot of potential out there for people to learn more about how they can do better and become more successful with their stores.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with that. So watch out on the Instagram stories because I'll be starting to deliver those soon.
Yeah, she's an e-commerce pro. Mum lives in a part of the world in the northeast where you were certainly an expert in your field with e-commerce when you had to. Mum had to travel to London before a few years ago to get a job with her skill set because there wasn't much in the northeast. So she knows her stuff. So yeah, give us a follow on Instagram and you'll be seeing all those. Are you doing it as a highlight as well, not to teach you how to suck eggs?
Yeah,
But
probably.
yeah,
Probably do it as a highlight. I'll just see how it goes. I'm just
yeah,
going to start having little chats and see what sort of band of people are going to be interested in hearing them. And then we'll see where we go with that.
yeah. Okay,
It's
right.
fascinating what you can do with an e-commerce store. It definitely cannot stand still once you've got one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so I just want to. It's my turn for this episode to talk about a business. It's the business highlight section. Doesn't really have a name, but we talk about a business that we like the look of, that might do digital well.
You mean you haven't given it a
If we
name?
love their ethos, I can't think of one. But Mum obviously talked about snag tights last episode, so it's my turn again now, and I'm going with Mastodon, which links into
Never heard of it.
us talking about the breakup of social media earlier and how that probably needs to happen. So it's a social media network that's kind of trying to challenge the likes of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's decentralized. It's not for profit. They launched on iOS in the
How
summer.
old is it?
I'm not
Oh,
sure,
in the
but the
summer.
iOS app was in the summer. But they did have a web version and Android. Obviously, the app is free. Um, it's a bit similar, so you can do like it has features like polls, sensitive content filters, and the app page subtly highlights its differences with bigger services like Twitter by mentioning Mastodon's ad-free chronological timeline. So it's like, I guess none of it's curated for you.
Oh, like they weren't before.
Yeah, kind of. So Twitter kind of now when you log in, and I know you can change it, but you kind of see um the best performing or people you've engaged with. It's not necessarily chronological. Um Me and a couple of my friends always jokes we'll be on about a tweet that we saw in the day, and we say, "Oh, we must have the exact same Twitter feed," even though we will. Yes, there will be some overlap in the people we follow, but um, there will also be. There won't be, but we've still seen because people have liked a load, so it takes all that away. And they're just trying to challenge. They're just trying to challenge the digital social landscape, and I just think like big up to any business or platform that's trying to break down that monopoly because it'll be a hard thing to do. They own us, as you say. You know, we're slaves to
I mean, I'm sure
we're
they'll.
slaves to the algorithms now. Because I know there's alternative to Google's now, isn't there? Like not.
Yeah, I was talking about it earlier, like DuckDuckGo.
Oh, I thought that was a phrase.
No, it's a search engine.
So
I
is
said to
that
you, it's
like the
been around
same?
since the time. Well, it obviously the thing about it is it's privacy.
Hmm.
Its privacy is so different to Google. You know, it doesn't stalk you.
Yeah.
It's not going to show you ads. It's not capturing your. It's not tracking you. And it was around back when I first started working in, in online back in 2007. I don't know at what point it came around. So it's been around quite a long time, but obviously you've never heard of it. So there are people who are extremely passionate about it and wouldn't use anything else for search.
I bet
Um,
you probably say.
but
I
it,
bet you some people who work at Google use that as a search. You know, like when you hear
Probably,
about Facebook employees not letting the kids use Facebook because they get to see what's really going on in the background. Um,
yeah,
I bet some Google
yeah.
employees like I'm not using Google because I've seen what they do with our
Well, they
data.
say that they're passionate about your privacy. Do you
Mm,
know what I mean? So that they're the complete opposite of Google.
yeah.
Um, it's like me on my blog. I don't make a lot of money from using affiliate links. Obviously, I don't have the swipe up on the 10k Instagram. That's where I think most people make their money these days with affiliate links.
Mm,
Um, but I have it on my blog, make tiny. I mean, it's only pennies anyway, but if it's volume, that's where you make the money. I don't make a lot, but I've even considered completely taking them off there and just asking people to donate something towards my blog if they wanted to,
mm,
to keep me writing. Because I even feel like I hate all that now, all that affiliate stuff. And I get that that's how shopping online works, sharing things and people making money off it. But just yeah, I feel like there's a massive kickback, isn't there? I don't know whether it's just me or it's other people. I know we're in our own little feed, aren't we? If you like, of the things that we discuss. But I feel like there's going to be a massive kickback to all this stuff at some point.
yeah.
I mean, I know people do talk about it now, but I feel collectively the kickback's going to get bigger. People, and you always say, don't you? Oh, it's the old people who have no clue what they're clicking on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
But that's
think
because you.
they drive
But that's
all this
because
fake news.
you've not lived like. I'm talking stereotypically now.
I was going to say, you're not talking about me.
No, like you've not lived in it. They're not
Hmm.
even aware half the time. I think some old people aren't, older generations aren't even aware of like what they're even using. Um, it's like how they probably stereotypically fall for those kind of uh ads or those scams, whereas
Yeah.
I read them like, oh yeah, nice try. Although they do get more sophisticated in time, but sometimes I'm like, yeah,
Everything gets more sophisticated,
I'm like, of
but
course that's
I'm just skeptical about everything, so I don't do You
Yeah.
know, like you say, I block all my ads
Yeah.
or block as much as I can. Yeah, I just feel like there will be some kickback at some point.
Yeah.
I don't really it's very it really does seem like Big Brother.
Mm.
Everything is getting more and more Big Brother all the time. And it feels like it's by stealth mode,
Mhm.
and it's pretty scary.
It
When you
is.
actually when you actually give it the time to sit and unpick it all, it's quite scary.
But yes, anyway, that's my stopping mum going on another
I'm not on a tangent.
tangent.
That I was still on subject.
Um, but yeah, Mastodon and all social or
Mastodon, what a
all
name.
all social or all businesses that are trying to challenge the monopolies that Google and Facebook have, like big up to them because it'll be a hard task.
Don't you just wonder how did they get this big? It's fascinating, isn't
I
it?
just think they were the first and they did it well. There's a
The
lot
first
said.
at
There's a
something.
lot said for being the first because people get used
Hmm.
to you. If you're the
Hmm.
first to do some, and like I know when we've had business ideas before, and I'll be like, oh well, it's not original, and you say, oh well, nothing's original. But I think what I mean is sometimes you're always gutted that it hasn't been you to do it first,
Hmm.
because you do have, I think, if you do it well, that one-upmanship of, well, we started this market, so yeah,
What about if you do it first, but you've got less money than your competitor who's going to copy off you? That must
more
be
fool
gutting.
you for not getting investment.
Well, that must be gutting, mustn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Are we done?
Interesting chat, Dex. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go with the outro then. Thank you for listening to this episode of It's in the Genes podcast. You can follow us both on Twitter. I'm at Declan Williams _ and Mum, you're at
Before end date.
follow before end date on Instagram as well this week with everything that's going on. With your what's your hashtag again?
Not past my expiry date.
You love a hashtag, you.
I
We
know
are
it's a long one, but it's a good one.
we are at It's in the Genes Pod on Instagram, and on Twitter we are at In the Genes Pod. You can follow our business across socials at The Digital Gene. Please like, share, and write review for this podcast. Use the hashtag It's in the Genes Pod when you're out on socials. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
I was going to
you.
say you saying bye.
See you next time.
Bye.
Well, I won't see you. You'll see me.
Bye.
Maybe. Whatever.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.